This is my presentation on practical cyber threat intelligence. So thank you for the introduction and thank you to NUS Hackers for organizing this. So a bit more about me before we dive into the deep topics. So as he said, my name is Davis. I'm interested in archery, hiking, food. I have a huge list of, I think, like around 1,000 plus places on Google Maps. I like to read. Currently, I'm reading Artemis by Andy Weir. He did The Martian, if any of you all remember. I also game, but my current interest is in cybersecurity. I'm currently doing research into space, specifically threat modeling on space systems. And those are my socials if you want to connect to me or ask me any questions. So now moving on. So today's lesson will be on cyber threat intelligence and plus a deep dive for people with already some experience and then some information about how to become a cyber threat intelligence analyst. So just a quick show of hands, how many of you are from IS? Okay, a decent few. Then I assume the rest are from SC or some other form combined. So the introduction portion is for those with no background. Then the IS portion, the deep dive is for people with information security background already that want to make deeper or better use of what they have learned. So why would you want to become a security cyber threat intelligence analyst? The biggest and first and foremost thing, the money. It is very, very good money. So as you can see here, I sourced it from Morgan McKinley. Your average pay starts off around like 150,000 to 230,000 as a maybe junior analyst. As you go further and further, you reach around the 500,000 bracket for your annual salary. So it's interesting work. You do stuff that other people don't get to do. You can call yourself an intelligence analyst. So you have more intelligence than the rest of the people here. And it's an interesting mandate. You look at warfare, you look at all these cyber attacks. So first off, this is the introduction for all the people starting off. What is intelligence and what is cyber threat intelligence? So intelligence in this context is not your IQ. Intelligence in this context is information that can be used. So previously in the olden days, intelligence used to be only done by governments against other governments. So they'll gather intelligence and then they'll provide it to their policymakers, their ministers to make informed decisions. So all of this will result in different actions that they may take, either tariffs, declaring war, or being friendlier to them on the reverse. So for cyber threat intelligence, we look at what is a threat in this case. So a threat is a mixture of intent, capability, and opportunity. Without any of this, it is not a threat because it cannot perform out the actions to damage your organization necessary. So there are different kinds of intelligence, as you can see. So human intelligence, where you go around gathering information, talking to people. Geospatial intelligence using satellites, measurements and stuff. So if someone is performing bombings, you can detect the ground shaking and so on and so forth. OSINT, as most of you are familiar with, and along with a countless number of other types of sources of intelligence. You can probably look them up on NSA's website or something. So moving on, so for cybersecurity, there is three different kinds that we are looking at. First and foremost, from top down to your management is your strategic intelligence. So this is for your senior management, your CISO. They do not need the deep technical details. All they need is the high level details. What is their security posture? Are they vulnerable? What can they need this to make informed security and investment related decisions? How much money to put into the cybersecurity team, for example. So next, you have your operational intelligence. This is for your people closer to the ground, but still higher level enough to look a bit further, a bit more mid-term to long-term. So these are for your SOC managers, SOC, Security Operations Center, your IR, Incident Response Leaders. They are supposed to identify potential threats, look out for oncoming campaigns that they should be on the watch for, triage cyber incidents. So they need to make sure that they know what's going on the ground to watch out for these, as well as hunt for breaches when everything's calm, but they still need to be on the watch. So they use this operational cyber threat intelligence to perform short-term to medium term actions. And then finally, your most bottom on the ground foot soldiers, like your SOC analyst and your SOC analysts, pen testers, or anything of this sort, they can take and prepare these indicators of compromise to use for investigation and blocking. A good example would probably be they receive this CTI, they ingest it, and they push it out to their firewalls. So this tactical intelligence is used for immediate purposes and is usually prepared by your CTI center, or usually in certain places where manpower is limited, your CTI personnel. So now here's a bit more details for what's going on. So I can see in my rightmost corner is the traffic light protocol clear. So for information sharing, this is quite sensitive information. You do not want it getting leaked. So for this, we have classifications from traffic light protocol red all the way to traffic light protocol clear. This defines how much clearance you need for the information and how careful you should be when handling it. So usually for TLP red will be something for your closer immediate purposes, usually people within your SOC team. And TLP amber and strict will be for people that you're willing to share with, maybe partner organizations and so on. And TLP green will be maybe your intelligence community that you're okay to share with. And TLP clear, like this case, is free to disseminate. So there are different types of data gathering. So as you can see, there is a passive and active way of gathering this data. It just means whether you are engaging directly with your... Sorry, is it a big echo? Okay. So there are passive and active ways of gathering the data, whether you're interacting with the opponent, the threat actor, or you're just gathering it from information that you have without touching them. So as you can tell, active is usually more dangerous. When you're interacting with the threat actor, if you get caught, they can also do things with the information. They can, if you have a connection directly to them, that means they also have a connection back to you. Furthermore, passive forms of gathering, you can look at your logs, you can look at your past incidents, and you can find out indicators of compromise from there. So example of active would be setting up a honeypot. So for those that do not know, a honeypot is a fixed system that you deploy. Attackers will attack it, and then you can get information from their interactions, the malware they deploy on there. Singapore actually has a HoneyNet chapter you can look into if you want to contribute into this, or you can look at the SENS Internet Storm Center. Or if you are interested, you can just Google search honeypots and you can set up your own, see what kind of data you can capture. If you're lucky, you can maybe get a malware or two from ongoing campaigns. A big caveat though, a lot of the current active honeypots available on GitHub are already fingerprinted, so attackers would know that it is a honeypot. So ideally, you should make some changes when deploying. So additionally, other forms of gathering of cyber threat intelligence would be your malware that you capture. You can dig through them, do malware reverse engineering, find out indicators of compromise, the IP addresses, the hashes, so on and so forth. And your final one will be looking through your own logs. So a key important part of cyber threat intelligence, there are tactics, techniques, and procedures. In a more advanced case, it will also be your tradecraft. So this is how you map your the attacker's behavior to a form of information where you can share it with other organizations and your own people. So for this case, why would you want to map a TTP? So you can see in the corner that is called the pyramid of pain. So it is meant to, as a different forms of deterrence for attacker. So if you just blacklist a hash value, they can easily change their code. Then as you go further and further, it becomes harder and harder for the attacker to change these details. So your final part will be blocking your TTPs. So if your attacker usually uses living off the land binaries, such as using built-in things like your command line, you can disable that or blacklist it, and then usually the attackers will find a more difficult time pivoting. So now, moving on, what is this APTs, your advanced persistent threats that we keep talking about for the people that are still getting into it? So as you can see here, this is a Google Sheets that is commonly used for CTI. And above is the tool attack extractor. So APTs are advanced persistent threats. They are basically nation state actors that are either sponsored by, example, China, Russia, Vietnam, so on and so forth, that usually have more capability and more money to attack. So they may not be from the nation state itself, or they may be a rogue group that are being paid by these nations. So just to share more, if you want to take a look. So this is the reason for the Google Sheets. So over here is the Google Sheets itself, actually. It is a list of different operations previously done by other countries. As you can see here, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, so on and so forth. All of these are contributed by famous CTI leads from their fields, usually principal researchers or maybe Microsoft and so on. You can take a look at them and read up on who they're attacking, what they're attacking. You can even control F look for Singapore to see if we have APTs ourselves. I think we do have a few. So going back to this is usually good for identifying um, different APTs under similar names. So as you know, we have different organizations where we have Google, we have CrowdStrike, we have FireEye. All of them will have different names for their own campaigns that they identified. And this is useful for comparing your own data with others. So as you can see here, Labyrinth Kolima, it is from North Korea. Kolima stands for the mystical horse that can run 1,000 miles, I think. So as you can tell, they have different names from different campaigns that they've used, and they have been identified to be correlated. So these are the operations that they've been identified to take part in. And furthermore, their toolset, malware, what malware they like to deploy, what malware they have used, what targets they are looking for, whether you are Southeast Asian, or like maybe you are from US and you are being attacked by one of these. Then furthermore, their modus operandi and the various sources. So you can actually look up on this yourself. So the other link that I shared, which is this, the Defend MITRE Tools Attack Defender. So this is useful for a lot of these operations are generated in the form of reports. So reports itself is not very malleable. So this is something that MITRE themselves has put out to help you identify the TTPs and then share it with your uh, team, personnel, organization, so on. So a bit more about MITRE attack. This is MITRE Defend. So MITRE has released quite a number of frameworks. Their most famous one is MITRE Attack, ATT&CK. These are various actions that attacker can use. Most of the IS students will probably already know this, but if you haven't, you should take a look at it. It's very useful and well used in the industry. So two of the newest ones will be MITRE Defend, actions you can take to counter these TTPs, and MITRE DAO, which is the Defend Digital Artifacts Ontology, which maps these two together. Yeah, so MITRE DAO helps you to compile what is the actions, what are the attacks, how they may mitigate each other, and what are different artifacts that may result from these interactions. So these are very useful if you're presenting to your upper management, middle management, when they want to know what is going on the ground. They want some insights from the logs that you're looking at to actions that they should be on the watch for. So now we're going into the deeper sections for the people already with the past experience, what they can additionally value add. So the US started the ISAO and ISAC organizations back around the 1900s to help build up capabilities for the private sectors. So back around the 1900s, usually it used to be just governments attacking each other. But after private sectors started getting targeted, they realized they need to build up the capabilities of the different companies as well. So these are information sharing organizations, usually centrally based in the US, but they do have presence all over the world. One of the most common ones you'll see now is FSISAC, which is financial services, and they go on as far and as niche as space systems. So additionally, frameworks that you can use for communication of your TTPs, your IOCs. So usually in the industry, we use the cyber kill chain to communicate how far along the progress of the attacker they are on, how far they have breached in the system, and at what path they're on currently. Either they're at reconnaissance, they're already at command and control. This helps to understand the impact of the situation. Then additionally, the diamond model. This is commonly, you will only see this in high-level meetings or threat intelligence sharings. It is meant for you to share after you have performed your attribution, after you have already gathered the data post-investigation. So you put things like, what is your adversary? what is the infrastructure that they're using, so you can block them. What are the victims? In this case, can be yourself, or it could be other financial organizations or different companies or governments. And what are the capabilities used? So here are a few tools that one would generally use while in the field of cyber threat intelligence. So we'll start from the right side to the left. So for all of this information that you've already gathered, you need a place to store it. So that is where MISP comes into place. It is an open source platform where you can store malware, you can store threat information, but it is a bit complex and a bit hard to use. But you can take a look at it yourself or build a better one. So another one alternative would be OpenCTI. This is specialized towards information correlation. Uh, Usually a big part of cyber threat intelligence will be getting threat feeds, because every day you need to find out what are the latest attacks, what's the latest indicators of compromise. So over here we have a few: anomaly, recorded future, Mandiant, Group IB, and Spiderfoot. Spiderfoot is generally used for OSINT. There's an open source variant of it, but there's also a paid one which includes multi-threading. For the rest, recorded future and Mandiant would be upwards in the around 150,000 to $500,000 for 1 year. If you are from the government or from a bigger scale, you probably purchase access to it. There are other smaller ones like Group IB and Anomaly. They are pretty good as well. So a common issue resulting from all these threat feeds would be the fact that they are all Western orientated. They are from Western companies, from the US, from Europe. So most of their threat feeds will be looking at attacks from Russia, China, aimed towards Western systems. Singapore, in the meantime, has a different threat profile. We're not really looking at this. We're not really looking at these countries or organizations. We're looking at more immediate threats that will be targeting and attacking us. So a very big and important part of cyber threat intelligence and intelligence in general that a lot of people neglect is counterintelligence. So intelligence itself is already hard enough to gather, but it's a different ball game to identify counterintelligence. This is where it starts really getting very difficult, because first you need to identify what is going on and then identify who is the one performing counterintelligence. So for this one, it's a specific operation. It's called Olympic Destroyer. So this was in 2018, targeting the Winter Olympic Games of Pyeongchang. Oh, by the way, I just noticed. Everybody's like quite introverted, right? So there's a Mentimeter if anybody wants to upload questions. So back to the story. Olympic Destroyer. It was a piece of malware created to target the Olympic Games of South Korea. So all of the IOCs in initial examination was pointing at North Korea. The IP addresses, the VPNs were very typically from North Korea and used by the Lazarus Group, which is a very famous APT from them. They are also supposed to take credit for the SingHealth attack, but that's not properly attributed yet. So then upon further examination, maybe 1 to 2 months in, they actually found out it was a false flag operation by Russia. So the TTPs and the code used was actually similar, if not the exact same, borrowed from one of their previous malware, not Petya. So if you look from that point of view, Russia, their APT Sofasi was trying to pretend to be North Korea attacking South Korea. Complicated, no? So generally in this kind of cases, it's very difficult. You need to have a very deep understanding of the threat, the attack, as well as understand the context and other points of reference why they will be attacking them, and look for different sources of material as well. Usually that's why organizations will collaborate, because one side may be missing a piece of the puzzle while the other has that piece but is not sharing. Okay, so we do have some time. So additionally, for this information that you gather from threat intel, threat sources, from your friends, from online, there are different ways of verifying the integrity of it. Because for all you know, your beginning OSINT may give you IOCs, but you do not know if they are genuine, you do not know if they are accurate. So usually there's a way of defining the validity of all of your cyber threat intelligence. It is called the Admiral system. So it is based on NATO, where they will have defined the how how valid the information may be, where its source comes from, whether it comes from your closest, most verified source to your loosest hearsays. It is a very good thing to know and use, but from what I know, it's not used anywhere outside of military, and even then, not commonly used. So some of you may be interested in CTI after hearing the pay, high as it is and pretty interesting. So how do you get into it if you're already not working as one? So many beginning students, they're interested in CTI, they'll think to themselves, I want to build a CTI aggregator. I'll have my OSINT tools gathering all of these IOCs. But what for? What's the point? You're not going to use the IOCs and you're just gathering outdated intel that is of no use to anyone. So it is a start, but not a very good one. If you're interested in building your own experience, looking into all of this kind of thing, you can do things that are more relevant to yourself. You can build an actual honeypot. You can configure it to be undetectable. You can set up your info aggregators from these honeypots. And after that, collect actual malware that may be currently deployed on ongoing campaigns. So for all of these, from there, you can make full use of this CTI of this malware and CTI that we get captured. Your logs may get interesting information like where there may be crawlers, attacks, or like hands on keyboard, ongoing campaigns against. If you deploy your honeypot in Eastern Europe, you might get attacks from Russia and China. If you deploy your honeypots in Singapore, Malaysia, you might get attacks from Vietnam or China per se. So where you deploy is also an important part to consider in all of these. So another key point to look at is translation services. So what does this mean? So a lot of the regionally, a lot of very useful, very important operational reports come from Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, because all of them are currently in technically active warfare. So from there, you should and you build some form of translation service for you to automate this. A few organizations out there are already looking into this service, especially with the help of AI. It can really aid it. However, you should be careful. So one example is in the Russian forums, they have special terms for certain parts of their malware. So backdoor is just not called backdoor. It may be called something else. There is colloquial terms you need to be careful of and on the lookout for, but it is very interesting. So in the final part of this, what should you build? You should build something interesting that is useful to yourself and to others. Don't just build a really garbage CTI aggregator. If you want, you can contribute to open source projects like HoneyNet, or you can go take a look at submitting something to Black Hat Asia, USA, or even DEF CON if your project is very good. So what's next? Certifications, of course. So here ranges from the most expensive to the cheapest. The one on the right side, the cyber threat intelligence from GIAC and SENSE, that is $10,000. If you're balling or your intern pays you well, you can try going for that. Next is something that's pretty well looked upon in the industry. So CREST is generally used for, well known for CRT, the CREST registered pen tester. But they also have a whole suite of other different certifications. This is the specific one for threat intelligence. And then a final interesting one that is quite cheap would be MAT20. It comes from MITRE themselves. So it just teaches you how to be a more efficient user of the ATT NCK navigator and find use cases. So GCTI is 10,000. CPTIA is around $1,200 to 2,000 last I checked. MAD is quite cheap. It's on a subscription basis now. But last I purchased, I think it was around 600. So what else is good to have if you want to enter the field? First and foremost, clearance. Why? Because cyber threat intelligence is an expensive field and usually only used in either governments or if you're at the very top, either recorded future mandient. And even then, with specific information sharing, they also still may require you to have a form of clearance. You can quickly check and verify that. You just look up cyber threat intelligence in any country and they'll ask you to have their local form of clearance. So anyways, you also need a good understanding of APTs, the TTP, the advanced persistent threats, the TTPs, the tactics, techniques, and procedures, as well as understanding of current ongoing tradecraft, where you can look at it from either newspaper articles that have hit cyber attacks that have hit newspaper articles, or you can follow and read up on white papers published by Microsoft, Mandiant, and so forth. A good technical understanding of not just cybersecurity, but general IT in as well. A lot of the students and people nowadays, they lack proper understanding of things such as networking, programming, your operation systems and architecture. Having this would help to build on your foundation of the different information that you have already gathered. And it will also help if you're multilingual, but you don't really need to. But some places, if you're looking specifically at threats from a certain area, it may be a requirement. So we'll do a short Q&A and I do have a Kahoot quiz. So any questions? Okay, no. So moving forward, the winner will get a special chocolate.
I think there are a few questions on the table.
Oh, is it? Oops. Okay. How did the CTI teams know that the Olympic Stealer campaign was a false flag operation by the Russians? So if you Google search it's not Olympic Stealer, by the way, it's Olympic Destroyer. So if you Google search Olympic Destroyer, you will find a few different examinations from different CTI companies. Some of them align, some don't really align, some are very iffy. But in general consensus, it was found that they used the IPs and VPNs from North Korea, but the TTPs that were used during the operation were identified to be close to the APT group from Russia, so FASI, and the code was reused from two of their previous malwares, NotPetya and I think another one. If you're interested to read up more, I think Kaspersky has done a pretty decent review of this. Oh. What's the easiest way to hide honeypots? So for honeypots in general, you don't really want to hide them. You do want them to get attacked, but it should not be obvious that it's a honeypot. So if you Google search honeypots now, the quite famous ones, like it will be Cowrie. It's a SSH honeypot that was deployed sometime back in the early 2000s, but it's been fingerprinted to death. So if you run a simple scan of it, it will immediately identify as a honeypot. But nowadays, with the use of AI, you can generally dynamically create content on your honeypot along with dynamic services. And usually there's a difference between different kinds of honeypot if you can do into research. There are high interaction honeypots and low interaction. The best of the best will be a high interaction honeypot with dynamically generated content. But nobody got time for that. So you can probably look at some that would make use of maybe ChatGPT's API and it'll set up everything for you as an easy way to look at it. Or you can probably use either the latest HoneyNet one or the latest Internet Storm Center one. That they would also pipe the information to their own data analyst centers. So if you don't want that, you should try to make your own. But it is an interesting exercise for like an afternoon or so. So how common do cybersecurity teams use dark web CTI? What are some benefits and challenges using it? So dark web CTI is a quite a difficult ball game. You're sticking your hands into a trap where you may come back bitten. But there is a lot of interesting information on it, especially forums. You can look at places where they are selling your data. Uh, if you think it's very valuable, it's not. I think around 2 million Singapore user data was stolen from Carousel and it was just sold for I think like $5,000. So is your data is more of maybe 20 cents. But from these cases, you can kind of find out quite interesting what they're targeting and um, what the current campaigns are targeting Singapore, and what is the value of different services available on the internet. So last time, I'm pretty sure most of the people here know what is Silk Road. It got taken down back in 2013. Alpha Bay was set up as a replacement, but I think it was also taken down in 2018. So there's some other um, dark web platforms out there now. You can generally buy services on there, such as ransomware as a service, kidnapping, drugs, guns. You can probably get some. They use USDT on the CR20 network if you do want to trade. They don't usually use Bitcoin anymore because it's quite unstable. So, how can a small startup prepare or include some CTI for their software? So CTI, as you can tell from the previous estimates of the pricing, it is quite expensive. There are cheaper options out there like Group IB, but if you do want uh, some basic capabilities, you could try developing your own, or you could just join the ISAO or ISEC of your sector, and it will help you get some current ongoing intelligence. There are free platforms out there as well, like OTX, you could take a look at. They may not be the most up to date, but if you're a small startup, you also do not have a lot of capital or runway for this. So you take what you can get. To prepare, it's just recommended to have at least Microsoft Defender activated or something. To be fair, Microsoft Defender is now very, very good for what it does. It can block majority of the attacks. Besides that, at least have some IT personnel set up defenses, antiviruses, AVs, so on and so forth, something that's cheap, but would do the job because you're just there to install, log, and deter the attackers from just, or script kiddies from just running attacks across your system. So you mentioned about Russian, China, North Korea APTs. What about US, NSA, and TAO? So they do have APTs, but because they're not targeted at us, we don't really look too closely at them. But since the new administration that is not very friendly with their own allies, some people have started to be on the lookout. But it's really not that different from looking at the current APTs in general. They just have a lot of capital and more advanced techniques. So just an interesting story about the capabilities of these different countries. So how many of you heard of 0 days? Okay, a decent bunch. So 0 days are special attacks that are very expensive, very valuable. They are like the nukes of the cybersecurity world. They are a vulnerability that has not been discovered yet. So in the China ecosystem, in their cyber capture the flag competitions, they'll easily drop and burn a $20,000 0 day just to get 2 more points on the CTF, because they can easily get another 0 day worth that much. They're really Their skill level is really, really high, and they're very, very capable and driven. In this regard, we are also not too bad. If you look at the cyber power measures of the different countries in the world, Singapore it wouldn't be up there, but at least we can defend ourselves sufficiently. So usually for attribution, you want to avoid that. Think about this context. What is the point of attribution? If you identify it's Russia, what are you gonna do? Attack them back? No. So attribution generally has no purpose unless you are from the government. Then you can use some other forms of deterrence, either by policy or diplomacy, to interact with them. So in this case, most places, if they're starting off with not a very good cybersecurity posture, you just identify a campaign and give it your own nickname, such as what many of them done, like Kolima. So for CrowdStrike, they actually use animal names. So panda is China, Kolima is North Korea, bear is Russia. If you are interested to look up more on that. So what's the modern day Silk Road and alphabet? Good question. You can go take a look at yourself. I think there's a few. Currently, the most common form of selling would now actually be, I think, on Telegram. You can just take a look and you can probably find some that are selling of this data already. But it'll be also quite dangerous because you just willy-nilly add your own account in and you may be arrested by ISD one day. So, any thoughts about the Singtel telco breach? So, for a lot of the attacks in Singapore, most of them are attributed to North Korea, if not crime groups from Vietnam who are doing it for a financial purpose. Singapore does have its own defenses. We have your CSA, DIS, and GovTech, and generally is decently robust, but most of them will also report to CSA if there are any breaches. Uh, Usually, all these breaches are not very damaging. It's usually loss of personal data. What they're probably more on the lookout for will be something of the cyber kinetic attack nature, like in South Korea, where they brought down the ATMs for a few days. That caused a lot of financial devastation. If not for in the example of Ukraine, they brought down the satellite communications and then started the Viasat attack if you're interested in looking up. And then from there they would perform they will declare war and attack when their communication is down. So I think Singapore is also currently looking at that. They recently have um their ICS white paper. They're engaging Dragos on all of these kind of details. Any thoughts about low-level hardware-based attack? Example, Pac-Man, Meltdown, and Spectre. So, low-level hardware attacks. That's not really my specialty, but I have done significant research into industrial control systems, which is about as low as you can get where they're using programmable logic controllers. For them, they have only currently 7 malware identified so far. It is very difficult and very rare to get a malware for ICS. Generally, they are counted as very important and very painful because it's a form of cyber kinetic attack. It can bring down your manufacturing capabilities. Um, most of these, so for most of this malware, they will usually look at the how they get in because that's how you prevent it. It's usually called the north to south direct attacks. So usually they'll more concentrate on where the human interface will be. But some of the malware, if they do get in, they will spread from PLC to PLC. So usually now I think Dragos and a few others are looking into examining that. The low-level hardware-based attacks are very critical, but they're also quite rare. Thus, the lack of research about them. So, is there any reason why North Korea will attack Singapore if we are one of the few trade partners of North Korea? So, interestingly enough, a lot of the countries would attack their own partner allied organizations to run their malware in a low danger zone, something that will be of less impact. If it's successful, they can take it and reuse it on the actual attacker, on the actual victim, sorry, and it will not be of much harm. I'm not saying that we are very cozy with them, but it may be a North Korean APT group that is financially motivated, but not exactly state aligned, which does happen in occasional, which does happen occasionally. One of the questions that we'll bring up later is how do you identify attribution and how do you know what is the reason for attack? You can get the answer there later. So can we attack Malaysia? Uh, Up to you. They do have some cyber capabilities that are pretty decent. If you join if you join some cybersecurity organizations, they do organize like learning journeys today. You can take a look at their incident response teams and so on. If you just want to run an attack from your own laptop now against them, sure, so go ahead. I'm not advocating for it, but you're free to do so. Okay. So back to the original Kahoot, yes. I'll give everyone 2 minutes to join. Okay, I'll start in 30 seconds. Okay, your last chance, 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So how much is the monthly pay of a CTI analyst? This was at the start. It's well above medium average pay of a Singaporean. It's pretty good if I do say so myself. Hey, not bad. So whoever Sam, good job. What is an APT? I'm pretty sure it's a term you've heard for well over half a year already, almost consistently, maybe every day. Pardon the spelling error. Very good. So yes, it's an advanced persistent threat. Not wrong, but it's not the exact term I'm looking for. Oh, change of leaderboard. Which of these frameworks describe the actions an attacker would take in sequence? So Sticks is generally a framework used for information sharing. It is quite popular taxonomy. Usually this is a computer readable one. Good job. Is the Lockheed Martin kill chain. The MITRE attack is a list of TTPs. It's not the exact actions they will take in sequence, which is the keyword. So which of these certs are good for CTI analyst? So all of these are cybersecurity certs. They are pretty, some have different reputation than others. Some are different in cost. There's multiple correct answers for this, by the way. Very good. So whoever got OSCP, maybe you're destined to be a pen tester instead. So which of these are good to have? Skills and things that we've covered just now. Hey. So intelligence analysts generally do not need programming skills. Furthermore, most of the current cyber threat intelligence analysts, they come from an intelligence background, usually from either military or something of that sort, where it requires a different form of thinking and analysis to examine this. Oh, wow. Still the same except the last. So which of these makes up a threat? We defined this earlier in the slides. Oh. Oh, pardon me. I typed the answer wrong. It was supposed to be the reverse. My bad, my bad. It didn't change. It didn't make a difference. Thank goodness. I'm so sorry about that. So what are avenues of cooperation that companies or organizations could look to? So ISAO, ISAC, ICMP, and INSEO. All of these are things that exist, but not all of them are correct answers. Yes. Good job on whoever got ICMP. So which operation was mentioned throughout the whole talk? So all of these are operations, some that are older. I think Moonlight Maze is one of the oldest mentioned here, but it's one of the interesting ones. Same with Promethean and Neodymium. They are interesting case studies of different actions taken by attackers. Oh, still the same. The penultimate one. So which country is this APT from? We did mention this just now. There's a few. Yes. Russia is bear, China is panda, Vietnam is either lotus or kitty. Both are used before. Usually they come with some form of adjective to determine their to differentiate them from each other. Oh wow. Final question. Which are the only ways to completely attribute an attack? So stand and watch over their shoulders. Get the APT to admit the attack. Identify TTPs and common tradecraft, and from intelligence reports. The keyword is completely attribute an attack. Yep. So one of the congrats to the 10 people that got the answers correct. So the keyword here is completely attribute an attack. You can easily attribute an attack to a country, but that is just generally based on guesswork of what you have. To have 100% confidence that the attack is from a specific country and threat actor, either you are in the room with them, seeing it as it happens, or the APT has admitted and claimed credit for the attack. Hey, congrats. Wow. Whoever won first place, please come up, claim your prize. Congratulations. So if any of you are interested in any more questions or you want to follow up, you can contact me via my email or you can approach me after this. Thank you so much.